The UK Prime Minister is promising to steer Britain through what she calls its stormy days. Liz Truss was speaking at the annual meeting of the Conservative Party. It's been a bumpy start for Ms Truss, who took the top job a month ago and whose mini-budget sent financial markets into a spin.
We need to get Britain moving. We cannot have any more drift and delay at this vital time. Let's remember where we were when I entered Downing Street. Average energy bills were predicted to soar above £6,000 a year. We faced the highest tax burden that our country had had for 70 years. And we were told that we could do nothing about it. I didn't accept that things had to be that way. I knew that inaction would be unconscionable. Families would have been unable to heat their homes. Businesses would have gone bust. Jobs would have been lost. And we would have worse public services, including the NHS. I couldn't allow this to happen. I refused to consign our great country to decline.
However, her speech was not all smooth sailing either.
Get them removed.
There was a moment of surprise when Greenpeace protesters interrupted her mid-speech. The crowd began to shout and boo at the pair before they were swiftly removed from the conference hall. For more on that, we can speak to Arise chief correspondent John Cookson, who joins us from London. John, you watched Liz Truss's speech. What were your takeaways?
Hi, ladies. Great to be on Newsday, as always. Well, the big takeaways were, has she done enough to unite the party and the cabinet with that speech today? 35 minutes in total it was. She mentioned growth and more growth. In fact, she mentioned the word growth in the British economy 29 times during that speech. 4 weeks into the job, party in disarray, a conference that has been seen splits in policy, being presented on TV by various members of parliament, cabinet ministers attending the conference in Birmingham. And of course, it comes only a week or so since the disastrous mini budget, which sent the markets into a tailspin and sent the pound to its lowest level in at least 40 years. So she had a big job to do. And when she marched onto the stage to Heather Small's Moving On Up, there was a lot of anxious anticipation as to what Liz Truss was going to say. There was very little new in this speech, not things that nothing more than she's mentioned many times before about lower taxes and growth in the economy, which she sees as the salvation to Britain's recovery. She promised growth, as I said, and to lower taxes. But when I was watching this, I was thinking that there's nothing in it for the average family who are watching, worried about their fuel bills this winter and also their mortgages. Some families already anticipating losing their homes. There was nothing in it, frankly, for the common man and woman, other than the fact that Liz Truss was promising growth, and this trickle-down theory about the economy growing as a result of that. It was the theory that she was propounding. So a workmanlike speech, take away some of the woodenness out of it. It wasn't a bad speech, but she appeared a little bit nervous right at the start, and who could have blamed her? And then that protest by the Greenpeace protesters, and it was quickly dealt with by security, it kind of galvanized the room. And if anyone wasn't on her side, they were immediately on Liz Truss's side as she remained cool throughout this dramatic demonstration.
Dramatic indeed. I'm looking at that banner. who voted for this, it says that was definitely theatrical. Well, but the question, in the end, John, is has she really done enough to unite her fractured Conservative Party from what you've been hearing after that? Yeah.
Too early to say. Look, when Liz Truss took office a month ago, she made the big political mistake of appointing her mates into the cabinet. And the golden rule of politics, as indeed perhaps in life, is keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer still. And because she only appointed her mates to the cabinet, all these former big beasts of the Conservative Party are out there saying what they like. And if they want to be mischievous, and that's being kind, they can do that. I'm thinking of Michael Gove, for example, a real Machiavellian figure. And there are other former cabinet ministers without a job who are more than willing to go in front of the TV cameras and frankly cause some trouble. And before the conference, there was talk by a number of MPs, Conservative MPs, that Liz Truss wasn't up to the job and it was time to get a new Prime Minister ahead of the general election, which is expected in 2024. So look, this conference has only just ended, less than an hour ago, and Liz Truss, frankly, couldn't wait to get out of the room quick enough. Now, those big beasts, those disaffected big beasts I've been talking about, haven't had a chance yet to get onto the airwaves, so we'll have to wait and see.
Right, now just flashing back to that moment when her speech was disrupted by the Greenpeace protesters, can you give us a little bit more context into what was happening there?
Yeah, absolutely. They were Greenpeace protesters, and they actually stood up too early during Liz Truss's speech because they were protesting about fracking and trying to get alternative energy sources into the country in the face of the fuel crisis. But they stood up about 13 minutes into the speech. She didn't actually get onto fracking until much later. So why they stood up at that time, I don't know. Look, the other thing is I've been to many of these conferences, and to get into that hall for the Prime Minister's speech, you are checked out by the police, you're checked out by MI5, the Interior Security Service in this country. There must be big questions as to how those two young women actually got into the hall with a banner. I mean, there are security checks on bags as you go in. So big questions. And, it was the Prime Minister. They could have been anybody. They happened to be harmless Greenpeace protesters. But there must be big questions about security at Conservative Party conferences in the future.
That's definitely a good point you've raised, John, because that's the question. If there are security checks, how do they in fact get in? And that happened, but it was a quick reaction from the security, officials who were in there. But how are the markets actually reacting to this?
I just checked a few minutes ago. The pound is at $1.13, which is where it's been stuck for the last few days. Although it's a big rise from $1.03 just a week ago, so the government can take comfort from that. The FTSE index is actually down almost a percentage point at this hour, but that's more to do with the expected price of oil to go up following an OPEC meeting, and Wall Street also is likely to be lower today. So, look, she took to the stage knowing in her mind that she mustn't say anything that will frighten the markets for good, because God knows they've been scared enough in the last few week or so. The speech to that extent was pretty bland, and in fact the markets are flat, and the pound remains steady.
All right, well, we'll keep tabs on that, but thank you so much. That's Rise News Chief Correspondent John Cookson. Thank you so much for your time today.